Hey, hey, Dawada. Hey, you can stream it. I'm live now. You can start streaming it. All right. Let me share my screen.
All people, it's like Africans. Are black people today white people? I just cut it right there. That's really all you need to know. Are black people today white people? So that's the same answer.
Let me help y'all out with the Bible never changes. That's the best solution for black people. The Bible never changes. Because the problem that we have in every ghetto USA, the problem that we have with each other is not science. Right. Science ain't the problem. Them drug dealers on the corner need to die. That's the problem. Them brothers that's raping little girls, them brothers that's turning our men homosexual, that's the problem. And the Bible said don't be a homosexual. The Bible said thou shalt not murder. The Bible said thou shalt not steal. The Bible said thou shalt not murder. The Bible said thou shalt not have no other God. And you see how they want to turn the mic on when I start talking about laws.
African, but then forget that the Africans, the Arabs, and the white man are all a part of the transatlantic slave trade. So when you call yourself African, when you wear that when you want to be Amin Ra and all of that, you're just joining another enemy to you.
Y'all don't listen to ISUBK, but we got the room on y'all floor. That shit don't even make no sense what you're saying. Because of the hundreds. No, we not. Yes, you are. I tell you what, take us off the hundreds. Take us off. We don't got to do another motherfucking room on the 100 side ever.
City. You got the city in Detroit. You got the city Seneca Village where Central Park is at in New York.
But that's not why the Wall Street thing happened. The reason that happened was there were a couple black businessmen and white businessmen who disagreed on some type of a deal. And then they start arguing and fighting with one another. And just like any terrorist attack upon America, it went into a riot. They didn't do it just because the blacks were black or that they had businesses.
So you're calling a black man a terrorist because he wants to keep his business?
I'm just saying the warfare between the white and the black broke out because they had disagreements.
But if you say America is so great and the white man is so great, why would we be labeled as terrorists?
With that individual, I imagine Imam Shabbat, I imagine Barack.
All right. If y'all can hear me, give me a 1. If y'all can hear me pretty good. My brother Q Butter, I gotta add him to the stream. So I added Q Butter to my stream. For those that may not be familiar with him, you will get familiar with him very soon. Of course, I'm Captain Tazaryach of ISUBK under Commander Jenny Hanna. Welcome to In the Lab podcast. This is episode number 3. This is a new podcast I started maybe a couple of weeks ago. And I wanted to do it in a different type of fashion. So sometimes you'll see me do podcasts like this, and then sometimes you'll see me do where I'm actually in my lab, which is about 25 feet away from me, where you'll actually see me making the products for the business that I run. Of course, I have a business called Call Gas, where I sell body butters, body oils, beard oils, sprays. It's been pretty successful. I have about 3 days left for my sale. Right now, currently, I have about 50% off. The sale ends on Wednesday. You could thank this sister in the school. She asked if I could let it run until Wednesday, so I let the sale run until Wednesday. So that sale will be going. If you notice, I have my Thanos glove right there. Big up to Officer Karab. I did not buy it, but Officer Karab did buy it for me, so it becomes one of my mainstays for my background and my audience. So this is going to be a real good interview. You know, I love Q Butter and what he's doing for his community. He doesn't know this, but we're actually going to be speaking in Brooklyn this coming Saturday. So without further ado, Q Butter, if you want to come on the screen, and then we'll get started. You can introduce yourself whenever you're ready.
Yeah, what's good, Black family? Shout out to the fam. You already know, love you too, love the family. Shout out my Israelites out there, all the family, man.
Yeah, man. And so, like, before we get into like the meat and potatoes of it, just a brief background. If you just want to give, introduce people that may not be familiar with who you are, your background. So, if you want to give, a brief introduction, of yourself, real fast.
I'm an educator, proud educator, founder of the Zayax Institute, Zayax the movement. Our mission is to educate Black children across the world, as many as possible.
Right.
We focus on STEM education, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. I myself have a background in engineering. I'm beyond just, my music studio, which I own, but also went to school for astrophysics. I did not complete it. I dropped out to focus on my business. I like 98 credits. I put it out there.
Right. You said astrophysics?
Yeah.
Like, what is that? Like, break that down for those that may not know what that is.
The study of the physics behind our galaxies and stars and universe and so on and so forth, cosmology.
And the reason why you may find out that I may actually go a little more deeper into your Q&A or to your question, to your answers, is because a lot of times people think that brothers don't really know much or they're not educated enough, which is again why I appreciate an interview like this. Also, when I was asking like for your background, I know you went straight to the school, but I'm talking about Q. I'm talking about yourself. Like, how did you come up? Like, how did you come up? What was it like coming up? Because that I'm pretty sure something in there sparked you to actually start the school. So I'm trying to get that part of Q. Like, give me that part. Like, what was your upbringing like? What was you always born and lived in Brooklyn, or did you live somewhere else? Like, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, on the record, for real, on the record.
Yeah.
What you call it? Yeah, born and bred in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Good old two family, good family, two parents and stuff, struggling. Raised like most Black folks, Catholic, Christian. My pops was like, he was actually Jewish. That's what his dog tag said, Jewish. And then so growing up, he was like, kind of like over there with, the 80s, there's a lot of Black people.
Right. Everybody was everywhere.
Kind of over, yeah, exactly. So he was over there. Graduated, barely out of high school, graduated on Rikers Island, literally. And that's,
Damn. So when you say graduated from Rikers Island, that's where you got like your diploma from or GED? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I finished high school on Rikers Island. I had gotten into a lot of trouble. I got accused of murder and stuff like that. I beat it like 6 years later and stuff. But that was my high school journey. Wrong place, wrong time type story. And, high school was pretty. I learned how to criminality is pretty much what I learned in high school. I ain't gonna lie. Like New York City high school was.
I can only imagine. Like
criminality, like from hopping trains, bending Metro cards, and stealing from stores, stealing food, stealing out of book bags, selling. It was a lot of. It just was a growth in criminality, amongst other.
And so for my Israelite community, right? Because you said Jewish, you don't mean your father was a so-called Jew. You just talk about he grew up following or that belief system. I'm just saying that for my Israelite community.
My father or my grandfather. As far as we know, my great there was about 4 or 5 generations of like that's what they were.
That's their background, right? That's what they followed.
I don't know how to word it. Like his dog tag said Jewish. He was like he went to the synagogue, not like an Israelite, but back he's a Black Jew.
Okay, I got you. Right. No, that's what I was saying. Because people, when they hear the term Jewish, they always, especially you said your father was Jewish. My community in the Israelite world, they'd be like, "Well, you sure he not like so-called Jew?" Like that's why I wanted you to. I
Yeah,
knew
I
the
know.
answer.
It would be
Right.
that statement, the so-called Jew, but they was in there.
Right. Right. I got you. Okay, no sweat. And so as you come up out of graduating out of like you said on Rikers Island, what did you do after that? Like what was your journey like after that? So you graduate. I'm assuming you beat the charge. You said wrong place, wrong time. I don't know if you beat the charge or not.
Yeah,
Did you
6 years
continue
later.
it? 6 years. Damn, it took you 6 years to fight it?
Yeah, 6 years to beat it, man.
Damn.
6 years to beat that, man. It
I
was
can only imagine like lawyer fees, or did you do it yourself, or
Oh no,
how
my
did you
parents, they put a lawyer fees, bail money, private
Mhm.
investigator. You know, my
Damn.
pops actually and that was a journey for me. I was like, you know, the black guy, black person, you know, you go to jail, find God.
Mhm.
You know, I read the Bible. You know, I was in there for like 3 months. I read the Bible in like, I don't remember, like 80 days. I was in there like this.
Like
This. You know what I mean? Like I was on
right.
some like super weird, not to say
Mhm.
weird, but that was beginning of like my philosophical journey. And that was the
Okay.
beginning of it. I would even say before that, but that put it to where like that was like my priority because I saw like how I saw the world that was the issue. So I
Mhm.
was deep into that. Then then it was just a mad more religious books. I'm talking about like I was just reading down the path, like a Apocrypha, Dead Sea Scrolls,
Right.
Quran. Like it was just like, all right, I want to read. I'm reading. You know, I'm keep
Okay.
reading. And that was fun. Like I used to walk around with a suitcase. I was in college. I would have my suitcase with my Bible, my Dead Sea Scroll, the dictionary, you know, my notes. I still show my students sometimes. I got my notes upstairs when I used to be deep into the Bible, all the
Mhm.
different passages, you know, remembering stuff. You know, like I'm
Right,
from New
right, right,
York, so
right.
like I always tell people,
You
like,
it's almost like when you say that, I be thinking like how 5%ers are in New York. Like you had to be on some type of intellectual time. And if you was on that type of time in New York City, I mean you was knee deep in it because a cipher could come up at any moment,
any moment.
any type of dialogue could come at any moment. You never know if you're gonna get challenged on your belief. I mean, I still go through that like on 125th. Like you go on 125th and they know we Israelites, you immediately got to know your stuff because you're gonna get challenged. So you walk around with your suitcase, like you said at the time. We would walk around with like our preset book. You know, we have they call it the Israelite starter kit, where you got like the Bible, Apocrypha, Bible dictionary. So I can relate exactly to what she's saying, and I know exactly what you're saying. So now, again, questions I know the answers to, but my audience may not know the answers to. So did you retain any of what you learned biblically or from Islam? Because you said you read that too in the time. Did you retain any of it today, or is this something where you just read it for or studied it for that time?
Nah, that's part of the journey. You know, I don't think you could read, or I don't see how you could read some things and then not, you know, become what you know, especially then I was searching. So for me, every
Mhm.
passage, every parable, everything was just like,
Right.
I want to know. But I remember my mom's made me pray for the first time. I was like 17 and she made me light a candle. And I
Okay.
was a 5%er. You know, I'm always fun to be a 5%er.
Okay.
And I wrote on there, I was like, I was like, I want knowledge, wisdom, and understanding.
Okay.
And so that was like my first thing I wrote on there. And she was like, all right. So when I got in trouble, she was like, see, God gonna give you that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And so, you know, it was always just like a pursuit like that. So even when I was beating my murder case, it was a lot because like my grandma's, there was a point when they was like, yo, they offering you 2 years. That sound good. And I'm like, no.
So they wanted you to take the 2 years.
They wanted me to take 2. I'm like, no, God got me free. God got
Right.
me free. So I'm supposed to be, why would I get free? I prayed for all of this and now I'm free.
Right.
And then later on, I forgot what it was, but it was a conversation my pops had. And he kind of got upset that we kept saying it was God that beat the case.
You said he got upset that you were saying that?
Yeah, because he was like,
Okay.
you know, he was like, he beat my case. And I was like, yo, your mom's and your father money. And he said, my pops wrote this letter and he actually did all the homework. Like he did the homework. Like he went and interviewed the private investigator, like found who to interview, found the people. My pops went 10 miles, 50 miles, 100 miles beyond that. It was like, let me go talk to the doctor myself. Let me go talk to these people myself. but he wrote it on paper, like a whole little pamphlet, 20, 30 pages of just holes in my case.
Okay.
He gave it to my
Okay.
lawyer, and my lawyer turned that to a 1-page document with 10 points, and they could never get past it. Like, they literally couldn't get past that document for like, they just kept trying to re-indict me, change the indictments, change everything, but they could not get past that letter. So it was just literally 4 or 5 years of that. And it was actually an audit that got my case thrown out. There was so much money being exhausted on my case over 6 years. They was just like, you know, we're gonna dismiss it. But that was like my that was one of the beginning conversations. Was like, you know, real reflections of what you do and how, you know, it contributes to your life versus just saying it's just anything, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you had them fighting for you.
It to God, like, there's nothing wrong with it, you know, taking accountability for what you put into.
Right, for the work that you put in.
Exactly.
Okay, I get that part. And just real quick, for those that are listening to us on Cross the Line Radio, you'll see that I've pinned the link at the top. That link that's pinned up at the top is on my channel, Captain Tazaryach in the Lab podcast. The stream on Cross the Line is going to end soon, not the interview. So for the people that are listening on Cross the Line Radio, please click that link up at the top. Come over to my other channel, because this link will be closing out in about 5 minutes, just so y'all know. So when this link ends, the interview is not ending. You want to come over to my In the Lab with Captain Tazaryach podcast channel, and then you'll be listening to it over there. I just want to let y'all know. So now, as you go through that journey and you went to college, now before we get to you dropping, because you said you didn't finish the astrophysics thing, you got like 98 credits, but you wanted to start your business. The business you're referring to is the school, right?
No, it was so how do I word it? Because I got to be real. So I mean, I got to be real. So,
right. Yeah, definitely.
Rikers Island, I had prayed like, yo, I got to find a way to help my people. And
right.
I need something new. And when I got in college, I met with these dudes, and we was just like completely linked together. It was like, yo, we got to do something different. And I kept pushing that. And yo, he's like, yo, we got to come up with a name. So we sat there for like 4 or 5 hours, just like till we came up with a name that we can put to anything.
Right.
And after that time, we came with the name Zayax, and that pretty much was the name. So the name Zayax is.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Does it mean anything?
It has a lot of pieces to the most important part about it is ours.
Right.
You know, like,
okay.
I don't know what it's something like, because at the time it was like, you know, it's Bad Boy Records. It was, you know, the Hotep thing, or, you know, this everybody's thing was attributed to something in the past. We wanted to be able to say, like, and that was something I always kept saying to myself, like, yo, we gotta have something new that when people say it, it's actually like ours. So you can't put all that extra stuff around it. It's like it's our name. And so originally I was into the music. I was a DJ. So it was Zayax DJ system, sound system. Then it was Zayax Studio.
So y'all did everything under that name. So Zayax was the name, and that became the umbrella for, like you said, the DJing, the music, and stuff like that. Okay, I got it. I understand.
So like anybody in the family could promote it and do it. And it got to be centered around Black empowerment, culture, mastery of craft, and so on and so forth. But it develops over time. So the institute, the movement, the studios, you know, delivery, you know. Whatever we can put underneath there.
Yeah, I like that you said that you always wanted to do like something for the people, especially finding God. It's not a, people be surprised. That's really not a rare thing for like our generation coming up, like in New York, New Jersey, or something like that. But then when you think about what you went through, you could have easily just said F God. Like you could have said F this, F that. But you had almost, it seemed like you had a strong foundation, whether it was from your father's side, your mother coming to get you to prayer. So would you say that foundation is what instilled in you the desire to do what you do today? Would you say that would be
without
true?
A doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. Like, it was conflicting going to school, dealing with like I don't know. It was just like, I thought my pops was the smartest person in the world. So being taught by people that was really culturally different. I only really liked the Black teachers when I was in school. It was just a lot of those cultural experiences that was annoying. And hip hop, Wu-Tang and Nas.
Yeah, that's all it takes. Right.
You couldn't tell me nothing. You know what I'm saying? And then my pops was like, I don't know what kind of, he was like an atheist Israelite, Nuwabi. It was, the 80s was all of that. So it was like the black.
It was all that, the Muslims, Nuwabians,
so
everything there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was weird stories of the black man's the original man. I used to hear that, the Hugh man. I heard that my whole, the Hugh, the original man has the Hugh,
right? And the white man ain't got no Hugh.
He ain't got no Hugh. Like I heard that growing up. The whole
right.
Like, he had the blackboard. He would write it on the screen, Hugh, and then write it on the blackboard, man. And he would like that was growing. So him doing that made me question why I was going to these other people to be taught. And then
when you learning everything from him, like your pop, right?
So it was just like, why am I? And then to me, I was just getting in trouble in school. It just was, it was just nonstop trouble. Like my sister, she did great. So it was really that like, damn, why you messing up? And I was. Was
your sister older or was she younger?
Younger than me. And it was just annoying. Be like,
and she just going to school, getting the good grades and
scholarships, good grades. Same school I'm going to. Like,
right.
What the hell's wrong with you? Like, yo, bro, like, it was a child, but that also helps me with teaching because I really take accountability for my errors and what my parents teach me and see like the better ways and creating a better pedagogy for teaching and delivering the information to people. Because my pops was a great educator. He just was, 1980s, black male, black man. He was a black man. So
right.
It was that one. Shut up and listen.
On black.
He was definitely one of those. So it was like
right.
Stupid was stupid. Stupid is stupid. And he would call you stupid, and that was.
You had to take it. You had to take it.
It's not this generation. It's not this.
I tell you what, not the sidebar, but we need that type of discipline. Not the sidebar, but I'm looking at the situation with Ja Morant, and I see how like his father spends more time like in the stands and stuff like that when this brother is about to get suspended for showing guns in a video. Whereas back in the day, like you say, it's stupid, sit down, be quiet, don't talk. Like the fathers was a little bit more stern back in the day. They wasn't as pressed by like the so-called limelight at the expense of their own children, which is what happens with Ja Morant. That's an unfortunate situation. Now, before we go further, I told y'all if y'all can click the link up at the top, I will be ending the link to give me the live stream on Cross the Line Radio. It is still live on my channel. I'm about to say it wrong. Captain Tazaryach in the Lab podcast. So make sure you click that link up at the top. This interview will be ending on that live stream. I just wanted to let y'all know that now. Let me go ahead and remove. Boom. So now that's gone. So we just have the one channel. So now that we know that the name Zayax, am I saying it right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Zayax was under that type of classification. So now we get into the stage of where you decide you want to do a school. Now, where did the idea of doing, I think I know the answer, but where did the idea of building or creating your own school, where did that come from? Where did that idea spark from?
That was started in school. Like my entrepreneurial persona, like that was always something I had. So like in school, I saw school as an issue. So like I remember in high school telling this white dude, JP, like I'm gonna build my own school. Like,
okay.
So I remember saying that to him like that. So education, like that was like I was always that dude that was cool, that would talk about aliens and Black Power and let's talk about the Bible and Moses and that. Yeah, I was that from young, you know what I mean? So that was that's my pops. So I would always be open to those conversations. So seeing the community and seeing the needs and to be filled in the community. Yeah, that's directly from my pops and my mom. So my mom has the heart of the world. So she, my pops got a brain of logic. So it's just, we got to do for us. Now with the beginning of Zayax, there was like I was a vice president of Mega BMCC.
What is that? What is that?
Borough Manhattan Community Borough Manhattan Community College.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out my community college heads. You know what I'm saying? BMCC, baby. New York is in the building. But yeah, that was a good thing because it's crazy. The district attorney was doing it doing a check to see if they should dismiss the case.
Right.
So they called the school to verify my attendance. And it's crazy.
So you were still going to school while you fighting the
Yeah, I was still going to
Okay.
school fighting the case. Yup,
Man.
6 years, from 18
Damn.
to like 24, almost 25. And
Mhm.
so when they called the check on me, it's so funny because the district attorney, they sent them to the dean, and
Mhm.
they're like, Quentin, the vice president, do you want me to transfer you into your office, to his office? The district attorney is like, no, we're talking about Quentin. They're like, yeah, Quentin, the vice president. They're like, the
Right,
district
right.
attorney was
So
like,
they
yeah, the
don't
vice
expect to
president.
hear that.
They was so good. I had in BMCC got mad, bro. I had my office was huge. I ain't gonna lie, I had a big office in BMCC. It was at least a 15 by 15 for office.
Okay.
Myself in BMCC. So they transferred to the office. I wasn't there at the time. So they spoke to the secretary. So all these different people are like, yeah, he does this. He got this program. He's doing this in the community. He's the vice president.
Mhm.
They're like,
Mhm.
and it was just completely, they were just completely thrown off. That was like
Right.
a nail in the coffin.
Because they would have expected you to be, in the streets, especially number one, they would have expected it to be a front for the case to look good where I'm going to college.
Confused.
And it was completely confused to see you up there running it as the damn president of it. And I think that's an amazing thing too. And so now when you go with the school now, though, was like, how was the transition? Because we always hear we should do our own schools. People always say that. People always say we should have our own schools. From a historical perspective, I think like Brown versus Board of Education was the end of Black education, because that allowed us to be integrated, so to speak. So we kind of had to learn all of their stuff and then forego our stuff. So people always talk about either homeschooling or we need our own schools, and then you actually build the school. So I need you to walk me through that process, because I think not only is it amazing what you did, but that could be inspiring for people in other boroughs and other states, so that they can hear from somebody that actually went out and did it. So can you walk us through, like, what is that process like? Like, what is that like?
My sons, shout out to my wife Marsha. We had our children, and my first son, I'm like, I'm not putting this boy in no white man's school, and I got to do it for myself. And I was actually doing events called Educating Us that was centered on providing the community with solutions, whether be it supplemental education, or direct homeschooling. And I've always been an advocate for homeschooling, and I know what the public school system did, not to say did, but that type of environment and the way it's organized, what it can do, with children. Some children, it does great and they flourish. For some like myself, it just did not reach me. And unfortunately, there's a lot of students like myself who are just not reached effectively in the school system. And there's a lot of potential that's just not, focused on or even attempted to be harnessed and developed. And so that's the component that, of course, for myself, now me being about the community, now that's just foundation. Now my music studio is tied into all of this. So I had a GED program in 2007, and a lot of the artists that was coming to my studio didn't finish school. And I was like, look, if you didn't finish school, there's no way you're going to be able to afford being an artist, because you're not going to get signed. So you got to get a good job. So at least you get a good job, you can afford paying for studio time. But if you don't
say that one more time, that was so smart what you just said. You said if they don't have a GED, they're not going to be good because they're not going to get signed. So it almost sounds like you was trying to give them the reality of what it takes as far as the music. Yeah, you can do this music, but you need to work too. It sounds like that's what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important, because I think a lot of people, when they think about I'm gonna be an artist into music, they make that their focus, but they don't think, what if I don't become the greatest rapper or the greatest seller of records and stuff? Like, what do I fall back on? And so, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but when I hear little jewels like that, I think that's important, because a lot of times we can live what we call a pipe dream. Like, everybody doesn't make the NBA, everybody doesn't make a football player or famous celebrity or something like that. So when you come crashing down to reality of I'm just going to be a worker, or I'm just going to be this, or I'm just going to be that, if you don't have the proper education, like you said, you need the basics. You need at least a GED or high school diploma to do anything. And I think that's good that you saw that and made it a point. But you can continue. I just wanted to highlight that part.
Good look. Yeah, that's the connectivity. So if it's just these things are all connecting to me when I was doing the studio and understanding the connectivity between your constituents in your community, the businesses in your community, and all of the elements that thrive off those two together.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of like, that was like the precursor to me having some of the talking points I have now, where there's there's the direct connection where if your audience and the people that your business is thriving off of can't support you, your business is going to fall apart.
Right.
And then there's like the extra connection that I have to the, like, I try to distance my boy Logic. Shout out my boy Logic. Now my studio has is kind of well known in the underground and in the music scene in New York, and it has a history of being a place that birthed and been a part of like a lot of violence. Just say the music that came out of here has been associated.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Was it like drill music or like what do you mean?
I can go back from like from the time I started, like it's just violence.
When you say violence, you talk about conflict at the studio or the music that
just
was made?
artists that I record that just happen to have a history of this violence,
Okay, I get what you're saying. Right.
The violence and the community, the music that they promote. I can't even say most notably this. Unfortunately, the list goes on. It's just there's a lot of people that. I remember in 2010, there was I'm talking about maybe 2 to 3 rappers a month that was dying from my studio. Like G Baby, rest in peace, G Baby. He was on the way to my studio, got killed. Mike Beck, I think, just left my studio, got killed. Renegade just left. This dude shot this dude on. It was just going nonstop, and it was like my studio was just like in the mix of all the scamming. Like they go scam this bank, they go in the Zayax studios, they gonna make a song. Boom, they shot up these spots, they gonna make a song. And so that was really weighing in on me in a conscientious way. That was like my boy Logic really made, like, he brought me to when he said that, he one day he saw me in the streets, like, you think you the man? Your studio ain't nothing but a haven for crime, violence. Zayax was black power. Only that come out of this nigga shit and violence. And that shit. Whew, I tell you,
because I was gonna ask you, how did it feel to be affiliated
that night? Bro, I ain't gonna lie, that brought tears in my life. That night broke me. I like, as much as I try to be positive and do positivity with the studio and be a pillar of a positivity. That part sits with me. That's why it's kind of hard for me to even be in the studio now. Like I have it running, but I be listening to music like, yo, bro, this shit is like, that's what got me into rapping. My brother Matt was there. I was like, yo, I don't want my studio. Like, I used to give out free studio time to anybody that did anything positive. You could came in and rapping about the Bible, Quran. I don't care. Long as it's positive, I'm giving you free studio time just so I can feel like what's on my record, what I've invested my time into was positive. So that was my way of like fighting against it. But the reality is, like, my business and myself was thriving and profiting off of this music, and the music was associated to a level of criminality in our community that was extremely destructive. So that was always in the back of my mind to motivate me, like, damn, you was doing this with Zayax and all you did was create a studio. That's what my man Logic said. All you did was create a studio that's making money off of the issues.
Right. Instead of actually fixing or addressing the issues. Right.
And then I had a music program that I was running at Brooklyn College. And I got fired from there. And I was building a studio in Harlem, and it was just a series of just like, life. My son was on the way, got fired from this good job. My studio in Brooklyn got shut down. I'm in Harlem. The lady, rest in peace, Harlem matriarch. But her and I was at war. From the second I put my money into her basement, it was a war in Harlem. So it was just like, what the hell's going on? My car
almost like sound like a roller coaster, right?
Yeah, bro. It was like I got locked up 3 times in the same year. And on my birthday for driving with no license. It was just, you know what I'm saying? It was a real, grind. So that's part of the struggle in college at that time. I was like, look, B, I was like, I got to pay rent. You know what I mean? I'm talking about my neighbor upstairs apartment was smaller than mine at the time my parents left me. And I'm like, yo, bro, my rent's more than yours. You know what I'm saying? I'm a student, bro. Like I'm working at Foot Locker. Man, listen, B, I was selling nutcrackers, working at Foot Locker, renting out every part of my house to pay rent and to go to school. And I'm like, yo, one of these got to give, bro. Like, they wasn't giving me no scholarships. My grades started struggling. And then I went to Mega Evers, and it wasn't BMCC. BMCC got a lot of money. They had white folks in there with a lot of money. All the black folks in there was paid. So there was no hate. Everybody was drinking lattes. Everybody had free. Like there was just money everywhere in the school. Everybody was making money. So there was no. I got to Mega Evers in Brooklyn. Nobody was making money. Just complete vibes that was just negative. And they was like, Q, you an American. What you need a student loan for? You got financial aid. And I'm like, what? Like, the hell are you talking about? So, you know, that was all in the mix that was like, all right, I'm gonna start doing community events. And when I got back to Brooklyn, the landlord I was with, we was at war. I had put my bread that I got out of Harlem, I put that all into a studio in Brooklyn. And one of my first students at Brooklyn College is crazy. He got introduced to the conscious community. So he disappeared and he came back wearing unks. Like, I ain't gonna lie, bro. So like, it was real. I'm being dead honest. He came back to Umar Johnson, talking about Polite, Sinetta. He came back talking about you. He came out talking about all of y'all. And he was like, yo, Q, like, he was like, you Black Power, but you really not like, you not like this. And I'm like, the fuck is you talking about? I got you your first job, your first money, this, your thirst, this. What did you? What? So then he introduced me to Sinetta on a different way. Like, I knew Sinetta through the studio with Loaded Lux.
Okay.
I didn't know Sinetta through YouTube at the time. It was still popping. It was still getting popping at that YouTube scene at that time.
Right.
Like, I was doing Loaded Lux project at the time, and when I went back to Brooklyn, the landlord, that's when I started getting on my Black stuff. I ain't gonna lie. Shout out to Sinetta. And I don't think of my student, because when he introduced me to Umar Johnson online, I'm like, yo, this dude is a fraud. Like, that was like my first statement to him. I'm like, yo, bro, like, you listening to this? Like, everything he showed me with Sinetta and the people he was listening to, I was just like, bro, this is what you listening to? I'm like, I brought you to Kingsborough. I brought you to these programs. That math book. What the hell what the hell just happened? And that was like that kind of brought me on the scene when I and then shout out to my son at the time, and then Shaka Atmos had hit me up on Facebook.
Okay.
But I started doing a community event, something called, wasn't like consciousness, but it was like something where I was like, yo, Black focus on something. And I started inviting people in the community out to speak. And we was doing it in Harlem, Brooklyn, Mega Evers, and then Let's Build. That's what it was. It was called Let's Build. And I was bringing different people in the community, and I started linking it with, like, shout out to, rest in peace, Abdul Hafiz, 5% Nation. There was Israelite Brothers. I was just trying to bring everybody together to speak. And from those conversations, educating us came as a priority. It's like, you know what? Everybody's talking about building all this different stuff in the community. Everybody's got different talking points. And I said, after doing those events for like 3 years, about almost a year or two, wasn't it maybe like a year? It was like, yo, we need to focus on education. And when I was at war with the landlord in Bed-Stuy, and that war really pushed me over the edge with Blackness. There was a lot of stuff going on. The dude that brought me to Brooklyn, like, kind of like beat me in my head, and I still had this, like, I would deal with the streets and consciousness in a weird way, and I didn't put a
like maybe like towing the line.
I was towing the line, but not being 100% on my square. And I was developing a position of, like, I was developing Q Butter at that time. This is like 2013, 14. And I would still believe people's street stories. Like, I don't believe shit in the street. If you went to the street life, you stupid. Like, I got so many stories of people that was like gangsters who became rats. Dudes that never wanted to become a rat is living in jail. There's so many stories that I'm like inadvertently a part of. You know what I mean? And so that year just culminated with that war with the landlord over there. And there was guns being called out. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And at the same time, the guns is being called out and we about to stab each other. It's about to be a shootout in the studio over a studio. I'm doing educating us. And it was just like, what the hell is this going on? And it was that was a real spot where it's like, all right. And then the owner he didn't own the spot. So that was the second person who I believed in as a Black person who was lying. And I didn't check their resume with my professional side told me, like, yo, I don't hear none of that Black shit. Let me see your deed. Let me see your rights. Let me see this stuff because you're going to beat me in the head. And next thing you know, you told me this dude was the owner. You don't even a real owner. You don't even live here. this dude don't even own the spot. And here comes this Jewish dude who's really the owner. And he turns out to be mad cool, but the black dude kissing this Jewish dude ass. And that was just like the beginning, like, yo, I'm not playing no more. It gotta be. So the owner here met me through Let's Build, an Israelite brother in the Bronx.
Okay.
Used to come through with a camp from the Bronx, and they're doing a lot of stuff in the community. And he brought him here, who's a Rastafarian, like Israelite brother.
Gotcha.
And he heard me speaking and heard what I was doing and about my kids. And I told him, like, and I had a video that went viral, me talking about churches in the community and how they waste the space on Rockaway.
Yeah, you told the truth then.
There was like 10 churches on Rockaway that was just all empty. They still empty to this day. I did that video in 2000. I don't remember what year that was, 2012, 13, something like that. And they still empty to this day. And he heard me say that, and he was like, "Yo, I got a basement. You could put your studio in there." And that was the beginning of Zayax in Brownsville. Then he later said he had a photo studio on the first floor and a printing studio, and he kind of like just was like, "I'm gonna retire," gave up on it, and he was like, "Yo, you could take the first floor if you want." And I was like, he was like, "What you gonna do with it?" I was like, "I'm gonna put a school in there. I don't know. I'm gonna put a little school in there and make a photo studio, or whatever. I'm gonna keep one side for."
And it was just like that. You said it just like I'm gonna put a school in there. That's what you said. You said it like that.
Just like that. I'm gonna put a little Zayax school in there. So a 10 by 12 foot space. It was a divider, and then I put a video up. And then it kind of went viral. I started making the wall. Not even viral. That's what made me do the GoFundMe. This lady, shout out to Mary Antoinette. I believe she's also an Israelite.
Okay.
I believe she and another sister online was like, "Yo, why don't you share this and make a GoFundMe?" And that was the beginning of the wall. And then it turned into a second wall. Then it was just posters on the wall. And then you remember Google Hangouts? We used to argue a lot on Google Hangouts earlier on.
Everybody argued on Google Hangouts, man. Everybody. Good.
I was talking to Irene Yvette. I'd left the conscious community and I was on just random YouTube channels with George Macon and Irene Yvette and Jesus Christ is Buddha was on random panels, and it was like, "Yo, I can help teach from online." And that started the schedule we have, because Irene said, "Look, I can teach full time for you. I just got to do it online, and I'm in California." She said she can do social studies and English. Then Buddha came on and said, "I'm in California too. I could teach English from California." I said I could do the math and the science. So then there was the three of us doing it for the first year part-time. And then Brother Damo, he showed up when I did the shout out to Shaka Amos. He did the brought me on Sinetta. Shaka Amos, I ain't gonna lie, he hit me up. It's like, "Yo, Q, I love what you're doing. I gotta bring you on this platform, Sinetta. Want you to show off what you got and this and that." And then he was talking about the Umar Johnson stuff and was like, "Yo, he said it's small what you're doing, but yo, we got to show this off." And he pressed me. I ain't gonna lie, he pressed me to come up there. If you remember, I think you was there when I did my first interview with Sinetta. He brought me up there. He pressed me.
Okay.
He pressed me to come up there.
But that was a good thing, man. Good. Hey, man, shout out to Shaka, man. That was, because that's a good thing, because I think from you starting you said, so the three of y'all, I'm assuming online, they would be on video.
Yep.
Directing the students.
Yep.
So you got a sister from California. You got the other brother. Where you say the other brother was from?
He was in LA, California too.
So both of them so two individuals from California, you in Brooklyn, link up. You do classes online and then how many students did you have at the time?
Bro, it went from 7, 8 children. A sister I met in Atlanta, she had three daughters was in it. Sister Irene had 3 children. I have my 2 sons. And then from educating us, there was like 4 or 5 children who would just use my space. There's homeschooling parents, they didn't have any space. And there was some homeschool parents. There was a sister who was going through homelessness, and she was a big supporter of Umar Johnson. And I went to an event and I kind of got upset because I didn't understand the conscious community at the time. So coming from my space of blackness and my pops, profiteering is like rule. You don't do profiteering. That is like, you don't do that. And I didn't understand it. So now I got invited to an Umar event to film. And when I got there, I saw the table. He had, buttons. mad posters, there was books, there was shirts. The line was going all the way down the block. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. The tickets is $60. I'm a math head. I'm looking at I'm like, yo, this is a lot of
Yeah, $60. That's some bread right there.
bread. I'm like, this is a nice wow. So at the end of the event, the sister told me her phone was off. And I'm like, I just didn't understand. I'm like, yo, this man just made like, I ain't pocket watch, but he just made some bread and you was up there the whole time promoting him, going live. How's your phone off? That's just $60. I'll give you $60.
Right.
I don't got it, but I was just the disconnects between the conversation was weird. And then at that time I was doing credit repair for free. And you remember that I came on the scene calling everybody credit repair, anybody selling credit repair. It was on and popping. Like, you was
because I think you was the enemy to everybody at that time. Because a lot of people was charging for credit repair. Everybody. A lot of people, when you don't have, man, don't be out here getting robbed with that credit repair. But that started a lot of wars too. I remember because Polite doing it. I think Garfield was doing it at the time. A lot of people was doing that credit repair. So you come in there and talk about it's free. You messing up you was messing up their money. You was messing up their bag. So I can only imagine. So
let me shout out Damo because it wasn't for the interview. He literally walked in like 2 hours or 3 hours after Sanetta posted the interview, and he's on the team and he volunteered. What was that? 2016. Since 2016, he's been volunteering, helping, doing music, putting in work in the community. So like that's why I have such a reverence for the content, because in the rap community, like I done got evicted, bro. My first studio out, my shit was on the street. The dudes that was with me the night before, I still haven't synced them to this day.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? So like that showed me that like the rap community is cutthroat. Your moms could die, and it's like, all right, nigga, I'm gonna repost it. Like it's real cutthroat. The conscious community, not that. When I went on tour with Sanetta, we did that event down south. The whole tour, everybody had food. People came out. People was like, love, Black Power. I'm like, yo, this is beautiful. Like y'all forget all this debate. That's why I never liked the debate stuff. I'm like, yo, we talking about the wrong stuff. This community small. This is beautiful, bro. Like y'all know, like the rap community, the rest of the world don't look like this. Like you gotta go to church to see something like this. To be, you know what I'm saying? Be honest. Like
real talk.
Like
real
Black
talk.
people selling stuff. You was selling your stuff. Some just selling their shirts. I'm like, this is fire. But that was my introduction. Like that's why it took a while for me to look at the debate stuff as something that's like positive. I just saw it as like taken away from the community element.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting, like when people talk about the debate stuff, and then we'll get right back to the schooling, because the debates, I think to this day, at least from an Israelite side or from my side, it actually keeps us together. Meaning like, so like I remember like you bringing up Shaka, I use him as an example. Me and Shaka, we have this incident at my camp one time where it seemed like we about to, fight, whatever like that. It ended up being nothing. We going back and forth battling. But then I see him in Harlem where my school used to be in this project. There's a rec center at this project's on 115th Street. And me and I think me and Zakar, we standing out there, and Shaka rolls up. So I don't know why he rolling up on the block. I mean, so as he's walking up, we catch eye contact and we just laugh and just chop it up. And he's working out because the rec center, they got a gym in the rec center. So he's saying, I work out here all the time. And so really outside of the debate world, I don't have, like, me and Shaka could see each other laugh, chop it up. It's not really a big deal. Same thing with Seti. When I saw Seti in person, when I see all of these individuals in person, it's never what it's like in a debate context. So I look at the debates almost like, if you want to call it the sport of the conscious community, where there's some type of way they got to work out some form of aggression. And maybe that happens through like the debates, and then the people gravitate to the debates. So as the people gravitate to the debates, you can get that information passed, and you can meet other brothers and sisters that normally if we saw them, we probably rob them, fight them, do something like that. Now we actually just build with them. So it's not really the same. So I'm a little iffy on it.
Like I'll put it on. I called. Do you want? And I know everybody wants to debate you. You know, you the big homie debates in the class.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to debate you.
Yeah.
When I got in the scene, I'll be honest. I'm texting like, yo, bro, can I debate you? Can I debate you, bro? And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, can we do a controlled one? I want to show the community control. So I'm being honest. I was like, look, the debate I wanted to do was like, science, the power, the scientific literacy and how it can empower the community versus religious history of empowering the community. And I called, I was like, yo, bro, like I would be a fool to not respect the influence of religion and how it had history on the community. And so I thought that was like a dope. So I learned that from you and some other people watching. Like it does, if it's done in a right way. Some people can take the debates and make it too personal. It's like attack on somebody.
Yeah, they want to attack their personal characters, stuff like that. And I won't say that I would start it, but if someone goes there with me, I ain't got no problem with it either. Like my man 50 Cent say, I don't really want no problem. I just ain't got a problem if you want a problem. That's more so how I be. But I prefer like a organized type of debate. Now, if we ever talk, we can always have that dialogue conversation or whatever if you ever want to do it, because somebody like yourself, it would really just be about you presenting your information, me presenting mine, and then we see, let the people decide where they want to go from there. So that's not really a bad idea at all. So now back to the school. So you started off with one room, then you build a wall and build up. So like, where would you say you're at today with the school? Like, where would you say you're at today?
It's a butt kicker, be honest. We had about 200 students, 180.
Oh, wait. You said, wait. You started, y'all heard him. He didn't start big. You said y'all got how many students?
Right now it's about 200, maybe 180. It's a lot of absentees. The teenagers are, we're understanding the culture of homeschooling. Like last year I was really going for more. And I am now, but I'm really proud to say our infrastructure is stronger. So we have a student information system, and so that allows us to communicate digitally to all the parents, other schools, students.
Gotcha.
That took us 7 months to damn near go from. We got it in November, not even I don't know October. We got it in October, maybe even September. We might have got it in October, September. Yeah, I think we got it early, and so we just now getting it fully running. Going from volunteer based to almost completely payroll, that is a no joke. I'm not gonna lie. We like so and not seeming like we're begging for support, but it's a challenge. Like I do about 2,500, anywhere from 14 to 2,500 a week in teacher payroll. That's a butt kicker. So that one is the biggest challenge we have this year. So my focus this summer is to create a better strategy for that, because I don't like paying the teachers all over the place, like what I do. Shout out to the teachers. They they understand. And the parents' payment system is going to be updated this year. So the money should be better. And of course, we're looking to attract more parents and to push it in a way where people really respect it as a solid educational platform.
Gotcha.
So I spent this is our 4th year full-time, or 5th year. It's like our 4th or 5th year full-time. I got to go back over the numbers. I think it's our 4th year full-time, 23. Yeah, this is our 4th year full-time. Yes. And so all of the data that we have now to be able to solidly say we went through the entire version of the curriculum almost twice now. So like, all of the classes I've literally taught for 4 years now. So like I understood it. I taught almost most of the classes, from social studies, math, intermediate math, algebra 1, algebra 2, almost at the pre-calculus for my students. Science, from our pedagogy is earth astronomy, earth science, living environment. Those are like our main core sciences. So taught all of those classes. The English teachers this last year. This is our first year running through. So Brother Buddha had his own curriculum. Okay. And we had to like intertwine it into our curriculum and digitize it so it can be a little bit easier for the students to handle, because we use Google Classroom and other platforms like that to disseminate the information. And so this is our first year running through the entire English curriculum and making changes to it. We realigned, and now we're almost fully aligned. Like with the SAT. So I'm really proud to be able to say that, like, our curriculum is completely mapped in. So my students from 7th and 8th, all the students from 13 years old and up better have signed up for the SAT. So that's
So
one.
yeah, so I'm glad you said that, because like one of the questions, somebody had asked a question, I actually pinned it to the room and well, to the screen, and they asked, so does a child have to be in New York to attend school?
No.
No. I figured that would be the answer. And then another question you mentioned in the SATs, what was the process like getting recognized or registered within like the Board of Educational system? Like, okay.
So my entrepreneur. So the question you asked earlier about my schooling. So my parents are get it done people. My father's a Marine, and he's like, look, one of the things he always told me was Black folks' issue in America is that we don't read.
Okay.
We don't read the law. And my parents were one of the first 2 people to go postal in America, and they actually beat the government for going postal, while most people didn't. And so they.
What do you mean by going postal? What do you mean?
You remember back in the 80s when people went to the post office and tried to kill people? My parents was like one of the first 2 people to do that. Like 1984, 1985, my parents went to try to kill their management. They went off, and then they actually beat the government and got retired from it. And so they've been retired for going postal since 86. But my father read, that's how I beat my murder case. That's how he beat his murder. That's how his murder case. He beat his case. He beat that case. He's like, oh, read the freaking law. Just read what it says in the law, and then make them quote it, and then see the differences. Don't go anywhere else outside the law and what's supposed to be presented in a time of case, in a case, and understand legal jargon and how to read and so on and so forth. So that is me. So with the Institute, I read the law first. Like, what do you have to do to create a school, and how could you go about providing education to your community by any means necessary? And so it's like, all right, I can homeschool my children. Students who enroll into my program can be homeschooled. Homeschool parents have the responsibility of notifying the school district and allowing and picking the curriculum that they would like to have and how their education is ministered to their child. So it creates a weird balance system where the accountability is on the parent to communicate with the school, to the state, and that allows us to be able to provide a service across state lines, similar to K-12. I can't wait to expand into other states so we can operate more of a way like how K-12 does it, where that gets into the business of education. But K-12 is in like 40 different states, and they're able to navigate the district in multiple ways. But their legal team is no joke. So I can't wait to be able to develop our legal team where we can be able to apply and put a little different pressure on the legalities of education and how education is administered. And another conversation like that is in New York City. The Jewish community actually beat up on the Regents Department during COVID and forced the Regents Department to actually change the way they actually look at organizations like mine.
Right.
So now they actually take my credits now in New York City. So before COVID, that wasn't there, and now they actually across the country they typically receive my credits now. So it's I didn't expect that. I don't even know how to quantify it fully yet. That's just something new, but they changed.
I think that's fire that they recognize it though.
Yeah, that's like, so people ask about accreditation. So when we take our credits and transfer them to the schools, and now that we have the student information system, the school can request it directly from us. It digitally transfers over to them.
So y'all would be like a normal school. Like I remember I used to go to 15, and then I transferred to number 24 school, or if you go from one high school to another, you saying the credits that come from your school, if they was to transfer to another school, those credits would be carried over.
So
I think
the challenge I have to do now, I have to overhaul my website, and so that way when a school questions us, the validity of us, when they look us up, they can go on our website and see our pedagogy, our teaching form, teaching plans, strategies, and the curriculum that we have, and the measuring standards that we have for the students, how we test, the types of tests we have. So that way they can just immediately say like, all right, we validate the curriculum that they have here. Because that's now, they made it more of a constitutional view in New York City, and they're doing it in the region now with education. Like Pennsylvania has a homeschooling diploma now that's equivalent to a regular diploma. In majority, there's almost 30 states that where a homeschool diploma is equivalent to a school diploma.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of knowing the legalities in your state. So, for example, Georgia, they're trying to change it, and that's because of the educational allowances, so to say, that the governments have in each state and how long they can have the money, and of course, pro-choice. And so, for example, they're raising the educational limit, or rather minimum, for schooling. So now students have to wait until they're 18 to graduate high school.
Okay.
It's really, for the Black community, economically speaking, that's backwards. And so that was another issue for me with New York, is like, I need my son to be done with high school at 16. I need my son in college at 16, going on 17 or 17, at least 17, because that'll give him the position to be able to compete economically with the world's graduating class. Because if he graduates the same year as all these little Indian kids and white kids, it's automatically on different playing fields. And so that's, for me, I tell that all the parents, like, we can't look at their predictive measurements at the same way as ours and say a child that's Black coming out of the ghetto at 18 is going to perform the same way as a white kid coming out of Long Island at 18. That's just this is crazy. And so now it's different if a Black kid coming out the ghetto is in college at 17, competing with a white kid who's just now graduating at 18. That puts us on a different level ground. Because
so you're saying, so that's where you prepare them for. You prepare them to be ahead like that.
Yes.
One quick question.
Any Black person, that should be a major component of the milestone markers and of African-centered, Black-centered education from an economic perspective. Like, it's now there's a vice versa to it that the Jewish community has. The Jewish community owns their schooling. And so now, if the federal government recognizes that a child has to get school funding and allowances until they're 18, and you own your school system, you're billing the federal government each child until they're 18 years old. That's a political. You understand the little game right there?
Right.
So, you know, that's a different place right there where I understand it. Where, like, if I could build a city for children with special needs or children with any type of situation, and I could, but it's the legal pursuit takes a lot, and you have to choose which battle you want to pursue. And so for me, I focus on the curriculum and the structure of the institute and being able to afford the teachers without needing a lot of government grants or we don't have any government grants. So to be able to have the teachers flowing that we have all over the country, and knowing that next year we're going to elevate on how we handle the budget for teachers is going to put us in a whole different platform. You know, so that's my entrepreneurial side of it.
Gotcha. And yeah, because I noticed you say y'all don't have any government funding. So how do you fund it? Is it you guys collectively come together? Like how do you actually fund the school to run? How do you work on? How do you do that?
That goes back to my so the parents we they have a tuition. You know, we ask $500 a month. We work with whatever the parents' budget is, though. Most parents cannot afford the $500 a month, so that's one of the challenges we have with the teachers. Where to pay the teachers what they need, I need to raise the tuition to like $800 a month.
Gotcha.
The way we can have a comfortable cushion for the teachers, but I also am arguing that cost to the community, where a price difference of $300 is, you know, anywhere from, you know, $30,000 to $300,000 if it was full paid, you know, 100 to 300 students. And so that needs to be understood from the bigger portion of our community and a greater portion. So that's why things like the science fair, what I'm doing these different events, is so that way the greater, not to say greater, but the professional class of our community respects what they see on this side and understands that this needs to be supported. And I can show the data and quantify the data so you can understand it mathematically. And I have the data now where I can show, like, look, with this.
That's what I was going to say. You have all your stat lines lined up.
Yeah, we have all the data now. We're like, like I'm promoting the institute more of a 2-year model, because I recognize the students. There is a socialization component where, like in New York, and this is why we also want to build more locations around the country, because the students in my program, their homeschooling life is totally different than a homeschool student online. Like the students online are in their room, computer, they're dealing with their parents, and that's their life. Like I don't really agree with that. You know what I mean? Like, so even if I tell the students they should sign up for extracurricular activities, it's still a very limited socialized life. And I'm not like, I didn't have that. Even without school, I had hundreds of friends everywhere.
Right,
Art,
right.
and some of these children, like in the South or in the Midwest, they're really isolated. And that component where I'm like, you know what, just give us 2 years, where I know 2 years, if the parent does their job and this curriculum is administered to them and the student does their homework, whether they're happy or not, they do their homework, they show up in class, they will be able to perform at this greater level. They will clean their room more. They will have a greater awareness of self. They will understand history. They will understand social justice. They'll be able to articulate reparations, atonement, restitution. They'll be able to have an understanding of mechanical engineering. They'll be able to explain the basics of machines, components of machines. They'll be able to build you structures, tell you what trusses are. They'll be able to break down different basic mechanical parts. They'll be able to code and make robots. This I guarantee. And I wasn't able to do that as strong as I was before. But after this 4th year full time, like I guarantee that. Like that's
when you mentioned the history part, right? And that stuff I don't know. Did you ever see this interview Michael Strahan had with Samuel Jackson had with Michael Strahan when he was explaining how he grew up, how he didn't see white people in school until he got to college, because in his neighborhood or in his village, they you went to school for what you was going to be, right? As I hear you saying what you're saying, it reminded me of that. I'm going to see if I can find a video and play it for you to see if that what you kind of
your audio cut out.
Is my audio good now?
Yeah, it's good now.
Okay. So, but before I play that video, I want you to the history part. How do you deal with? Because I know growing up in history, what I learned in history was bullshit crap. It was garbage. And so, when you teach the kids history, do you teach them the average curriculum history, or how do you deal with the history component when it comes to your school, as opposed to what we would learn in high schools that we went to? Like, how did you differentiate that?
So social studies, that's why it took 4 years, because social studies actually kicked my butt and Miss Irene's butt to figure out a way, because we always wanted to put Black political thought, because that's like, we wanted to have that as a part of our component for social studies. And the purpose of social studies is to develop a person who will be able to be productive to society based off their understanding of the history and the social economical developments and so on and so forth that went into history, and to bring us to modern times. Now, to have a white person stand in front of your child and tell you that they're going to produce a Black child who's productive in society, that's what you're saying as a parent. Now, history component is very much biased by your region for social studies. And so that was one challenge for us, because if you're a child in Louisiana, the state of Louisiana wants you to know the history of the foundation of Louisiana, the first charter of Louisiana, the geographical main prominent features of Louisiana. California wants you to focus on Louisiana. New York City wants you to know the history of the Hudson River. They want you to know the Potomac. There's certain things that certain regions, Florida, don't even talk about Florida. Florida wants you to know Ponce de Leon. They want you to know the history of it, the road. They want you to know, why is this statue here? And if you don't know that statue in Florida, they might say your child don't know social studies and history. So the regional bias is one part. So now for anybody creating a school, the standards is what you're supposed to guide yourself off of. So there's something called the national standards. And so you look up social studies national standards, and then from there, you can develop the perspective you want or pedagogy you have for teaching. So for me and Sister Irene at the time, it was to say, we have to kind of remove the region base and then kind of make it an unbiased perspective, and then put in a region-based perspective, if that makes sense. So When we look at Africa, we was like, damn, well, how are we going to teach African history? We're going to teach African region by region and oldest civilizations in this region. So what's the oldest civilization in West Africa? Oldest civilization in East Africa, oldest civilization in South Africa. What are the major archaeological features that they developed? What are the major contributions that these societies provided to people? What are the major leftover artifacts that they have? What are some of the engineering feats that they had? What are the type of monetary systems or governance systems that they have? So instead of saying that government started in each place, we analyze it from their region, and then you can apply a Neolithic, a Mesolithic, or Paleolithic perspective where you can say if we're in Asia, all right, now we're analyzing West Asia. Let's describe the Paleolithic component of West Asia. Then you can have the students going that model allows us to reinforce the T-chart and the compare and contrast and juxtapose component for social studies, where we want the children to be able to compare and contrast the different developments in each region. So we try to make it, and it's a lot of work with social studies, because this is a lot of work. So the goal is so that way, if you tell your child, can you juxtapose the geographical regions from West Asia compared to West Africa? They should be able to do that. Can you juxtapose the philosophical differences in the governance and how in the Paleolithic period or the Neolithic period in Africa and East Africa compared to East America? That way they can actually rationalize from a social studies perspective the components. What type of military system did they have? What type of engineering did they have? So that way it was kind of because from New York, we didn't know how to teach it to somebody in California and then have it where it could be argued in international. Because when we had two students in Ghana, and their component of social studies is from a Ghanaian British perspective. So you need to know about a whole different component.
Right.
So we had to try to come up with an instant. So we argue our social studies curriculum is an international standardized curriculum where a student in Ghana would have an unbiased perspective, it wouldn't be a deeply nuanced or articulated curriculum based off of their region. That would be their parents. It's hard to do that with social studies. So with history, that's the perspective we have. So now this year we added social justice and we rearranged. So social justice for us is the African American experience, I think we call it, in social justice. And so that allows me to teach us to teach the experience we had as Black people, exclusively centered around the wrongs that was done to us and the fight that we did to fix it, to highlight the specifically how did the British benefit. That's the question I'm about to do now, the British, but we just finished doing the Dutch. We did the Jews, and the Jewish component for colonization in America. And this isn't the Israelites. We're talking about white Jews, Sephardic Jews, and their influence in the development of mercantilism, and capitalism in America, and their need to pay for restitution, reparations, and atonement from the Spanish, from the church. Like, I take a lot of pride in this class to be able to say, like, our students are being taught that they can actually say 3 reasons why the Portuguese owe Black people worldwide for reparations. 3 ways that the Portuguese benefited from the transatlantic slave trade. Who is the Dutch West Indian Corporation? Who's the Dutch East Indian Corporation? How did they contribute to the development of mercantilism? How did mercantilism develop to contribute to the development of capitalism? And how did that develop in today's modern economic system? How did that develop or contribute to? This is literally the questions that I'm writing for my students to answer on the Dutch involvement in the transatlantic slave trade right now. And this is all based off of them knowing that knowing this information will allow you to be able to argue properly for the injustices that were done against us. And I don't think a white person should be in a position to teach Black people, one, day history, and 2, that from a perspective where you're going to get your due back. Like this, like California, and I was just telling my students this last year, I said, how many students do you think in California really understand the reparations in California going on right now?
That's why I'm glad you went as deep into the history side of it, because I think like some things are universal, math, science, and stuff like that. That could be universal, but history we'll always learn theirs. I was in a room the other day, and they were saying how in the state of Texas, they're teaching that the slaves were immigrants, like they're calling it the transatlantic migration instead of actually the transatlantic slave trade. So if we're not careful, what we deem as our history will no longer be history. So I think that's a great effort that you're doing with your school. You mentioned the science. I don't want to say fair. If I'm using the wrong word, I apologize. But can you talk about that? Because I believe that's what you have coming up in June, right?
Yep. We have that coming
Okay.
up June 10th.
Mm-hmm.
And that was birthed off a lot. Honestly, the conversations on YouTube and just saying like, I'm just love technology. And so saying like, we have all these people linked together. Let's show off the science that we have. And I really cherish the conscious community. And so I want to be able to look back that this is being hard in the community. I don't feel like we have enough things that are progressive to look back on.
Right.
You
I
know
agree with that
like,
though. But I agree with you 100% on that.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's just no offense to anybody. I want to see bigger Israelite buildings. I want to see bigger Moorish buildings. Like, if we're not like, forget whatever your belief system is. I'm materialistic. So we should have more than last year. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it should be bigger than last year. And that's like what I want to see the community be able to look back and say, like, no, we accomplished this. And so the science fair, when I invited you, I invited everybody out. Like, look, please,
yeah, we're gonna
out,
be there. I'm actually gonna be on teaching on the street in Brooklyn this Saturday. So I actually be in Brooklyn this Saturday, and we're definitely gonna be at that event on June 10th, which is also. Can you give the people the address of where the location is gonna be at?
Restoration Plaza, 1368 Fulton Street, in the basement. Gonna be hot. It's gonna be. I'm really excited about it. We flying Unc up. Dr. Mayat got a sponsorship from Morgan State. You know what I'm saying? So these little pieces, you know what I mean? Like, this is gonna be fire for us. My sister got me doing. We want to do a red carpet. You know, we're gonna invite the press out. I just put a GoFundMe up yesterday, like almost 2 days ago, and it's already at like 15. It's not crazy, but $1,500 in 2 days. I only shared it once.
Nah, but I think that's good.
That's great.
I think that's good. It should be supported. And people may not know Dr. Ma'at, she does the children's book, the children's shows, and stuff like that. She does a lot of stuff for the children as well. Maybe I'll see if I could bring her on for an interview, because that's kind of what I want the podcast to be about, where I can interview people from different I don't want to say different because y'all not different from me, but it's different from what you would normally see and what you would normally hear about. And hearing a brother, especially your background story. Now for those that are listening, you see why I wanted his background story, because his background story could be mine. It could be the average brother's backstory, but he didn't let that backstory deter him from creating a school with over 200 students. Started off with, you said in the studio with a room, right? Just one room, and then you had to build a wall, then build another wall. He worked with 2 individuals in California to do online classes, to do all the stuff that they say that you can't do, but when you put the effort in it, I mean, I really appreciate that work you're doing, Q. I think it should definitely be applauded, brother. And that's why I will be at the event June 10th. Anything else that you need me for, we can always link up for it as well. I don't keep the podcast too long, but I wanted you to keep, get all that information out. So was there anything else that you wanted to let the people know that you got going on, or anything you want to make them aware of?
We have the summer program, our summer STEM immersive program. So definitely, if you're looking to put your child in a STEM program for the summertime, we are signing people up for that. And we have Juneteenth. Then you're gonna be coming out for our Juneteenth event. We're gonna be at the same place, but in a different portion of the different space in that location. Okay. And let's connect. Let's connect. I'm pushing scientific literacy. Always looking for volunteers. Volunteership helps make the place work, because it does matter. And if you're interested in participating in any way, capacity, just hit me up. I'm always looking for people to help and push forward.
Definitely, man. Well, we definitely appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on this platform. I look to doing more. Expect we do some filming when we get down there for the Juneteenth, to highlight everything that you're doing and the work that you're doing. I think you're doing an excellent job, brother.
I appreciate that, King.
Hey, no sweat, brother. Peace. I'm gonna go ahead and close out.
Peace.
All right, man. Welcome to another In the Lab with Captain Tazaryach podcast. I had my man Q Butter join us today. Excellent information he brought out from his school. I think it's a fire interview that he gave. I believe I got Sinetta coming up this coming Tuesday He'll be a guest on the show. It won't be a debate or anything like that. It'll just be, a background on him, where he's coming from, where he's looking to go. And I appreciate everybody joining. Make sure you have subscribed to my YouTube channel. Also, this will be going up on my podcast as well. Because I do, like, when I say podcast, this is an actual podcast. This is not a something that I just do for YouTube podcast. So for those that haven't followed me, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple, I'm on Spreaker. So, and what is the other one? SoundCloud. So no matter where you are, you can go ahead and take a listen to it. So with that, I just got to play my closeout video, and then we'll be ending. Give me 1 second. Let me share my screen. Let me come here. I'll share this. Bring it back.
Black people today, white people. I just cut it. That's really are black people today white people? So that's the same answer with the African.
Let me help y'all out with Bible changes. That's the solution for black people to Bible never changes. Because the problem that we have in every ghetto USA, the problem that we have with each other is not science. Science ain't the problem. Them drug dealers on the corner need to die. That's the problem. Them brothers that's raping little girls, them brothers that's turning out men homosexual, that's the problem. And the Bible said don't be a homosexual. The Bible said thou shalt not murder. The Bible said thou shalt not steal. The Bible said thou shalt not covet. The Bible said thou shalt not have no other God. And you see how they want to turn the mic on when I start talking about laws.
African, but then forget that the Africans, the Arabs, and the white man are all a part of the transatlantic slave trade. So when you call yourself African, when you wear that when you want to be Amin Ra and all of that, you're just joining another enemy to you.
Y'all don't listen to ISUBK, but we got the room on y'all floor. That shit don't even make no sense what you're saying.
Because of the honeys.
No, we not.
Yes, you are.
I tell you what, take us off the hundreds. Take us off.
Y'all have
We don't got to do another motherfucking room on the 100 side ever.
city. You got the city in Detroit. You got the city Seneca Village where Central Park is at in New York. Black
So that's
city.
not why the Wall Street thing happened. The reason that happened was there were a couple black businessmen and white businessmen who disagreed on some type of a deal. And then
So
they
the-
started arguing and fighting with one another. And just like any terrorist attack upon America, it went into a riot. They didn't do it just because the blacks were black or that they have businesses.
So you're calling a black man a terrorist because he wants to keep his business?
I'm just saying the warfare between the white and the black broke out because they had disagreements.
But if you say America is so great and the white man is so great, why would we be labeled as terrorists?
With that, men of Israel, I imagine Aman Shabbat, I imagine Barak.
All right, y'all. Until next time, shalom.